Dave Palumbo here with an RX Muscle rant. Today's topic is going to be, guess what? The most popular topic that's out there right now in the bodybuilding world, the Liver King, of course. Ever since I saw this guy, I really love his stuff. I got to tell you, I'm so entertained by what he puts out there because I see him as more of an entertainer. I knew Tony Little. I met him maybe, it's got to be 15 years, maybe almost 20 years ago. And Tony Little was the guy who would go on these infomercials. He had the long hair with the ponytail, and he would go crazy, do that gazelle thing he had, and he could sell anything, this guy. And actually, a lot of people don't realize Tony Little actually competed against Lee Haney back in the day. I believe at the NPC Nationals when Lee Haney won it. He was a good bodybuilder. He was a lightweight bodybuilder, but he was a good bodybuilder. And he told me something that he said, Dave, you know what? I don't even know that much about nutrition or what I'm doing. I just know how to sell things. And that's what I'm really good at because I'm an entertainer. That's what I do best. I'm a good salesman. And that's what this Liver King guy, Brian, is so good at. He's just a good entertainer and he knows how to sell. Now, the issue came with the fact that he's been saying that he is natural and he's using this bone marrow he's eating and the livers that he eats and the cow balls that he eats, that he's using these things to get the gains and the look the way he looks. Which, right off the bat, if you see the way the guy exercises, he's a maniac exerciser. So, that has a very big part with, how conditioned he is and how he looks right off the bat. And if you believe that all these glandulars and all these other kooky things that he sells actually makes him look like that, you almost deserve to waste your money on this stuff. But that's not what I'm here to debate. Whether he's a good guy or not, I don't care. Greg Valentino thinks everyone's a good guy. Other people think everyone's a bad guy. I'm not here to debate this. What I want to talk about is his drug cycle, okay? Because a lot of people have asked me what I think about it. And do I think it's real? Do I think he was really doing this? Do I think he was doing more than this? And so I'll take it from the perspective of what my expertise is, because I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, or psychic. So I don't know what his motivations are. I'm assuming he said he was natural because he was trying to market his products, the best he could. And that's part of what he did. And obviously saying, hey, I'm on a ton of steroids is not going to help you believe that he's using those products or eating fucking cow balls to look like he does. And I never believed that was the case, but maybe I'm not as gullible as some other people out there. But his cycle was put out there and it was released by his supposedly now trainer, Vigorous Steve, for whatever reason, we don't know why. And it was sent to Derek from More Plates, More Dates. They all put it out there and exposed him. For whatever reason, I don't know why. Especially because it looked like he was sending this guy, Vigorous Steve, who was his coach, or at least he was paying as a consultant, to keep this hush-hush, confidential. I don't know why they released it. I don't really care. But the thing that really struck people was the amount of stuff on this list. Now, the list itself doesn't seem like when I look at the list, I'm not like blown away initially. We're gonna leave the growth hormone for last by what he's taking. It seems like he's on a testosterone replacement dose. He's about 200 milligrams per week. DECA is about 200 milligrams per week. So right off the bat, that's a cycle, right? You take testosterone with an anabolic steroid. Doesn't matter how much you take. When you take two compounds, that's called a steroid cycle, all right? So he's on some sort of a steroid cycle at hormone replacement-ish dosages. But once you throw the DECA in there, you're not on HRT anymore. Now you're on like a small steroid cycle. And then he's also was taking Winstrol at 50 milligrams per day, which is a nice hefty dose of Winstrol. So he's on 3 drugs right now, that I'm looking at right here, 3 anabolic steroids. That's a cycle, okay? Whether you want to think it's a small cycle or a low dose cycle, it's a cycle. That's a really good cycle actually. For a guy who was competing in the 80s and early 90s, that probably would have been, a typical cycle. So that is going to definitely yield muscle building results from that. Now, he was also taking some peptides, and there's different, peptides or anything that's not an anabolic steroid that's peptide or protein related, I should say. So IGF-1 he was taking, we don't even know how much he was taking. It didn't say how much on the sheet. He was taking CJC, which is a growth hormone releasing peptide, which releases a little GH. But if you're flooding yourself with GH releasing peptides, they probably stop working after a while. He's also on the oral growth hormone releasing peptide MK677. He listed as ibuprofen, but that's just the chemical name of it. The brand name is the MK677, and that's more than likely what he was taking. So he's taking an oral and an injectable growth hormone releasing peptide, ostensibly to raise GH levels. The IGF-1 would be just to initiate growth, because growth hormone causes IGF-1 release. Problem is when you take a lot of IGF-1, it kind of shuts down your receptors for IGF-1, and you don't really respond to it anymore, which is kind of silly, But it seems when I'm reading, what he put in this email to whoever he sent it to, whether it be Vigorous Eve or whoever, it seems like he wasn't that knowledgeable about anabolics. Like he kind of had a rudimentary understanding of them, and he was kind of asking for help is what he was doing, because he really wasn't sure about how all this works. So he probably was natural up until, maybe a year ago. Now, I don't know how long he's been doing this whole Liver King, build up, before he actually launched the line and everything like that. I don't know if he was been training his whole life or I don't know what his history is in this. Doesn't seem like he's been taking anabolics that long, but he probably had a decent physique prior to that. If you train naturally for a long time and then you throw in anabolics, your body responds really good. He's in his 40s, he's mid-40s, so he might have been natural most of his life. I really don't know. He seems like an extreme exerciser, though. He does a lot of it. He walks, on his off days, he walks 12 miles a day. I mean, that's not an off day, right? So he's an extremist for sure. And he has a good physique. I mean, he's in good shape. He's got good muscle. He doesn't have a bodybuilder stage physique where he would do great, but he's got good abs and pecs, and his body fat is relatively low. But then we come to the growth hormone aspect of this. Now, he originally started out, he said, at 5 milligram vials of GH twice a week. It worked out to when I did the math. Now, the 5.8 milligrams of GH can be converted to IUs by multiplying times 3. So it's every milligram is 3 IUs of GH. So he was taking about 17.4 IUs of GH twice a week. He upped that because he didn't see like he was getting results to 4 of those vials a week. So that was, if you do the math, it's 69.6, essentially 70 IUs of GH per week he was doing. That works out to 10 IUs per day of GH. That's a lot of growth hormone to take every single day. That's a very high dose. Ostensibly, this looked like it was pharmaceutical grade. He said he was getting from some kind of a wellness clinic. I'm assuming it was legitimate. He was upset because his IGF-1 levels in the email, he said, were not that high. Now, you got to remember, when you take a shot of growth hormone, and I don't know how many times a day he was taking, if he was doing it one shot, several shots, your IGF-1 only stays elevated for so long in the body. That's just the way it works. So if you take the GH shot and then you get blood work, outside of a certain window of when you took the shot, you might have normal IGF-1 levels. It doesn't mean that's your levels all day long. It just means that depending on when you took the blood work, that your levels were low. Now, if he took a shot and then 2 hours later he took blood work and his levels were still low, that would usually indicate that something's not right. Now, is it the GH was fake, or, which I don't think so because look at his physique, or is it more likely that maybe he's just not releasing IGF-1 from his liver because he's taking too much GH and his liver just can't keep up? Or maybe his liver is just not in good shape. He's the liver king, but maybe his liver is not healthy. That's another explanation. It seems like all these drugs, however, he's getting are from a clinic. It's not like something he's scoring on the street. He's spending a lot of money on this stuff. He said he even says how much he's spending a month. It's like a ridiculous, like 16 grand a month or something like that, I think it was. So he's obviously buying it from a legitimate source. I have to believe that the source is probably real. All these things that he's doing, the Task, Decker, and Winchell, things that you could get from a legitimate United States rejuvenation clinic or compounding pharmacy, because they're actual United States approved drugs. So why is his IGF-1 levels low? Taking 10 IUs of GH per day. More than likely, the time of the shot and the time of the blood work were not synced properly, or he's exhausted his body's ability to produce IGF at a high level, despite the fact that he has high GH, that he's pumping tons of GH into his body. And that's why I tell you guys, look, if I thought 10 IUs of GH was a better way to grow and that you were going to get better results, that's what I would advocate. I'm hardly conservative on what I recommend to my clients and for myself, but it doesn't work that way. You don't get better results. You get more water retention, so people think, oh, I'm gaining weight. Well, yeah, because you're a bloated mess. You get more side effects like carpal tunnel syndrome in your hands. You get the tingling. You mess up your blood sugar levels long term because you're stressing the hell out of your beta cells of your pancreas because they can't produce enough insulin to overcome all that GH that's in your system. So you're going to get a lot of side effects from that, but you're not going to get more muscle growth because the only way that you can grow muscle is that your liver releases IGF-1. Now, if you're also pumping in tons of IGF-1 every day, over 10 to 20 micrograms per day, which most people do because it's cheap and available a lot of times, or much cheaper than growth hormone, what happens is your IGF-1 receptors basically go into the toilet bowl. They disappear because the cells don't want to be overstimulated with IGF, which means you're not responding to IGF, and you're making the GH you're taking almost be useless in a sense. If you're going to take 10 IUs of GH a day, don't even take IGF. You don't need to, okay? It's not going to do anything. Let your body produce as much IGF as you can. He would have been better off taking like 4 IUs of GH per day. 4 IUs of GH per day and no IGF-1 for what he was trying to accomplish, which was to be ripped, big, and recover well. But I think people get carried away with, hey, what else does this rejuvenation clinic sell? Oh, they sell IGF-1 too? Let's throw that in the mix too. I'll grow from that. I think he tried to just shotgun everything he possibly can get from this wellness clinic that he was using, and that was his cycle. It didn't seem, I'm kind of surprised that he would go to like an internet, famous guy, rather than someone who is got expertise in performance enhancing drugs, someone like me or Milosh, or someone that you would think that hey, this guy wants performance enhancement. He's going to go to someone who specializes in that. It's kind of weird that he would go to someone who basically puts out on the internet exposing people and doing crazy videos and has a huge audience. But I think that's because he was kind of naive and he wasn't really in that part of the bodybuilding world. He was more in the world, like I said, of I want to market some supplements. These are the channels I watch because I don't really know that much and I'm just getting into it, and that's why he reached out to those guys. And once again, I don't know. I'm just speculating. But as far as his cycle is concerned, aside from the high excessive GH, it's not that bad. And I think people feel like, you know what? And he probably felt the same way. This is not, GH isn't toxic to my body like steroids would be if I took too much of them. So if I'm going to use a lot of something, I'm going to use GH. And it's so expensive and I can afford it because I'm making a lot of money that who cares? I'll go crazy on the GH so I can get ripped, which is what most, I think if you listen to the emails, that's really what he was worried about. He really wanted to be super, super lean. And he felt like he had certain areas of his body that were stubborn. So I think that's why he overdid the GH, because he could very easily have overdone the testosterone in the DECA and he would have gotten way better muscle building results. But maybe he was afraid he would look too unnatural, even though he looks unnatural anyway. I mean, anyone who takes anabolics knows the look. And I knew right off the bat when I first saw his videos that he wasn't natural, but I didn't care because they were so entertaining, all the crazy kooky stuff he does and eating all the raw, glands and stuff like that I was just amused by him more. I would never have bought his supplements, but I was amused by the Instagram, that he had. And I would watch all the videos, and I don't really watch anyone's videos, and I don't even read the comments on my own stuff I put up. So that he definitely had my attention, and I think that's a great way to market. He should probably have never mentioned the fact that he was natural or not. He should have just not addressed it and just say, hey, this is what I do. If you want to do what I do and you don't want to eat, cow balls, you can just take these little pills that I got with the cow ball, extracts in them. And he would have been just as successful. So cycle not that crazy, except for the GH. Big waste of money and probably, put a big strain on his body in the sense that his blood sugar levels probably started getting messed up. But you got to remember, he hasn't been doing this that long. This is only like a year process. So it takes a while to get cumulative damage. My advice to him, if he is watching this, which he probably isn't, cut back the GH. Everything else looks great on the cycle. And best of luck to you. And you know what? Tell everyone else to go fuck themselves, because who cares? You're making a lot of money. Dave Palumbo with an RX Muscle Rant.